The sky was black glass, the kind that swallows light instead of reflecting it. Waves hammered the hull in a rhythm too steady to be natural. Someone was steering straight into the storm. Commander Lara Keene felt the shift before she heard it. Boots pounding the deck, the brief silence that always comes before betrayal. The muzzle flash came next, white-hot against the night, and the ship erupted in shouting. Hands slammed her against the bulkhead. Zip ties bit into her wrists, plastic cutting through skin slick with salt. She caught a glimpse of one face in the chaos. A man she'd briefed 2 days earlier, eyes empty, voice calm as he said, "Orders changed." That was the last clear sentence she heard before the rifle but cracked across her jaw. The deck tilted. Body scrambled. Someone yelled her name. Then water swallowed everything. The impact stole the breath from her lungs, punched her chest, replaced air with fire. Darkness spun in every direction at once. She kicked, but the ties held. The ocean had hands too. It pulled, dragged, pressed her down. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears like sonar. She tried to orient. Up, down, anything, but the cold blurred every sense. The salt stung her open wounds, and the taste of blood mixed with diesel. Her mind screamed to breathe, but her training whispered louder. Calm is control. She forced stillness into her body. Count. Wait. Float. The pressure built until it felt like the sea wanted to crush her into memory. Somewhere above, light fractured through the waves, a ghost flicker of the world she'd just left. She twisted her wrists once, twice, plastic cut deeper, then snapped. For half a heartbeat she believed she could make it back. Then another wave slammed her down. The sound around her shifted, a low mechanical pulse, distant yet deliberate. A sonar ping. U.S. Navy. A whisper of rescue in the dark. Her eyes closed on that sound, not in surrender, but in promise. The fall wasn't over. It had only begun. Silence was the first thing she noticed when consciousness returned. Not the absence of sound, but the kind that hums through bone. Commander Lara Keene floated in it, half awake, half gone, caught in the skeleton of what had once been her vessel. Torn cables wrapped her legs. Shards of hull plating drifted like black snow. The ocean pressed in from every angle, cold enough to steal memory. She couldn't tell how long she'd been under. Seconds? Minutes? Her body answered before her mind could. Lungs burning, vision tunneling, muscles screaming for air. Panic clawed at her throat, wild and useless. Then something older, sharper, rose to meet it. The voice from training, the one drilled into her until it lived inside her spine, whispered through the noise. Calm is control. Her pulse slowed. She remembered the freezing tanks at Coronado, instructors shouting while the water turned her lips blue. The lesson hadn't been about endurance, it had been about choice. When everything is stripped away, heat, breath, safety, you decide what breaks first, your body or your mind. She decided. Her fingers found the blade on her vest, half loose from the impact. She worked the tip between the plastic binding her wrists, twisting until the tension gave. The ties parted. A single kick freed her from the cables. Her chest heaved once, violently, and she pushed upward through a maze of wreckage. The surface felt impossibly far, a blur of gray light and drifting oil. When she finally broke through, air tasted like metal. She gasped, half cry, half roar, dragging herself onto a floating panel torn from the deck. The sea was calmer now, endless and indifferent. Smoke rose in thin ribbons across the horizon. Every breath hurt, but each one was proof that she still owned it. She stared at the dawn bleeding over the water. It was beautiful, in a cruel way, like the world didn't care what it had taken. She adjusted her grip on the metal shard, muttered the words again, quieter this time. Calm as control. Not a reminder anymore, but a vow. Somewhere deep beneath the wreck, machines listened. The USS Colorado cut through the dark, silent as a thought. Inside, red emergency lights painted steel corridors and tired faces. A sonar operator froze mid-sip, eyes locking on the faintest blip, one that shouldn't exist. "Sir," picking up a beacon. "Frequency matches our downed recon vessel." The control room came alive in a low murmur. Captain Torres leaned over the console, voice steady but razor-thin. "Confirm range. Half a click northeast. Depth, 130 meters. It's weak, sir. Real weak." For a moment, the hum of the engines filled the room. Everyone knew what that signal meant. A gear-mounted distress transponder, military issue. And the only person wearing one on that op was Commander Lara Keene. Authorized retrieval? Asked the XO. Torres hesitated. Surfacing in contested waters meant exposure, maybe another ambush. But duty had a sound, and right now it pulsed through the hull in Morse code heartbeats. Low visibility recovery, he ordered. Deploy the drones. The hangar doors yawned open. 2 ROVs slid into the abyss, their lights piercing the dark like searching souls. Sonar imagery flickered across monitors, twisted wreckage, a drifting mast, a human silhouette tangled in lines. Target acquired, came the voice from comms. Lara's world was shrinking again, light fading, blood humming in her ears. Somewhere below consciousness, she sensed the vibration of propellers, a new sound slicing through the deep. She blinked, saw shapes of white moving closer. For a heartbeat, she thought it was memory, until a beam of light swept over her face. Hands, metal first, then human, pulled her from the water. Her body collapsed against a cold deck. Someone shouted, "We've got her!" The hatch sealed behind them. Warm air, motion, the taste of oxygen. She coughed up seawater, eyes fluttering open to a circle of faces she half knew. The crew stared back, speechless. For weeks they'd trained under her command. For hours they believed she was gone. Now she lay before them, half ghost, half miracle. Captain Torres knelt beside her, his voice barely a whisper. "Welcome back, Commander." The room stayed silent, the kind reserved for things no one can explain. The ocean had tried to claim her, but the Navy had heard her heartbeat in the dark. Days bled together in the hum of engines and the sterile light of the med bay. Lara lay still, the rhythm of the submarine's reactor pulsing through her veins like a heartbeat she hadn't earned back yet. Every time she closed her eyes, the moment replayed. The muzzle flashes, the betrayal, the plunge into black. But beneath it all, something colder burned. Not fear, not pain, purpose. When she was finally cleared for brief movement, the command deck fell silent at her arrival. Screens flickered with intercepted transmissions. Drone footage showed the mercenary freighter still prowling international waters, carrying stolen naval prototypes worth millions. The insignia painted on its hull, the same one she'd seen in her last moment above water. Torres met her gaze. "We have confirmation, Commander. The ambush was fed by one of ours. Someone sold your coordinates." Her jaw clenched. "Then we're not done yet." He hesitated. "You're not cleared for field ops." She stepped closer, the steadiness in her eyes more persuasive than any report. "With respect, sir, if I can breathe, I can fight." The room held its breath. Finally, he exhaled. "Limited field clearance. One operation. Make it count." From that moment, the Colorado became something else, no longer a vessel, but a living pulse of vengeance. The montage played out like ritual. Gauze torn from her ribs, skin meeting cold metal weights, slow-motion push-ups beside med monitors blinking red. She reassembled her dive gear piece by piece, fingers tracing the edges of steel like old scars. Every screw tightened was a promise. Underwater drills followed. Hypothermic breath control. Silent rebreathers. The mantra echoed in her head, the same one from training. Calm is control. Only now it wasn't about survival. It was about retribution. The crew felt it too. Conversations dropped when she entered. The sound of her boots on metal carried through the corridor like distant thunder. By the time she stepped into the launch bay, the submarine itself seemed to vibrate with anticipation. Engines roared in sync with her pulse. Revenge wasn't the mission, it was gravity. And when the hatch opened to the dark sea once more, it didn't feel like she was diving into danger. It felt like the ocean was finally letting her return to finish what it started. The ocean welcomed her back like an old adversary, cold, watchful, silent. The USS Colorado cut through the deep, running dark. No lights, no sound beyond the muted churn of propellers. In the launch bay, 2 SDVs waited, twin shadows armed with purpose. Lara stood at the edge, breathing slow through her regulator, the faint sting of stitches tugging at her side. The pain was an anchor. It reminded her she was still here. Green light. Came the whisper through comms. The hatch flooded. Water rushed around her like the intake of a living lung. She dropped into it without hesitation, leading the team through the abyss. Every motion was measured. Every kick deliberate. Bioluminescent plankton shimmered in their wake, faint ghosts marking their passage. Sonar pulses echoed in the distance, a slow rhythm guiding them toward the target. Through her visor, the freighter appeared, a looming corpse of steel suspended in the dark. The same ship, the same vents, the same gate she'd been thrown through days before. Her fingers brushed the hull, tracing the rusted scars of her own survival. No words were exchanged. SEAL operations didn't need them. The team fanned out, magnetically attaching charges to the lower ballast vents. Lara led the infiltration, slipping through the narrow intake that had once been her tomb. Inside, everything felt smaller, claustrophobic. Echoes of her own screams replayed in memory. But she moved forward anyway. The mind of a warrior doesn't seek comfort. It seeks completion. The light of her wrist beacon cut through the gloom, illuminating pipes, chains, and dripping water. Somewhere above, footsteps thudded, mercenaries unaware that ghosts were already beneath them. She reached the inner hold and paused, her breath steady, the mantra silent in her mind. Calm is control. It wasn't rage that drove her now. It was clarity, a quiet certainty that the ocean no longer belonged to them. When she signaled ready, her team synced explosives on cue. A heartbeat later, the water outside swallowed sound, pressure, and fear alike. For the first time since the betrayal, she didn't feel submerged. She felt ascendant, claiming the depths as her own. The breach was silent, a storm with no thunder. From below the waves, the seals rose in unison, black silhouettes emerging like shadows reclaiming form. Water cascaded off their gear as they climbed the hull, boots meeting metal with purpose. No one shouted. No commands. Just the rhythm of precision, suppressed bursts, controlled entries, the soft thud of bodies collapsing before alarms could breathe. Lara moved through it like a current, unstoppable, unseen. Every corridor, every bulkhead echoed with ghosts of that night she'd fallen. But tonight, the current belonged to her. Muzzle flashes flickered like lightning behind closed hatches, each one extinguishing another fragment of betrayal. The ship's interior pulsed with the chaos of men who realized too late what hunted them. Deck by deck, the team advanced, surgical, efficient, absolute. Wind tore across the upper decks as dawn began to fracture the horizon. Salt spray mixed with diesel fumes, and blood long dried to her temple. She barely noticed. Her focus was a single room away. The bridge door stood ahead, the last threshold. Through its small window, the mercenary leader paced, gun trembling in his grip. The same man who'd zip-tied her wrists. The same who'd ordered her body thrown to the sea. For a moment, she watched him, studied the fear he'd never shown before. Then she stepped in. The confrontation was quiet. Two weapons rose, two eyes locked. But only one had already died and come back. Her voice cut through the hum of the ship's instruments, low and steady. "You thought the ocean buried me," she said. "But it answers to us." He hesitated, a flicker of disbelief, then surrender. She cuffed him without ceremony. No gloating, no speech, no vengeance played out in violence. The silence between them carried more weight than any gunfire ever could. Outside, the horizon bled orange, sunrise spilling over steel. Her team secured the final deck as gulls circled above, indifferent witnesses to justice. She stood at the edge of the bridge, wind clawing at her fatigues, the sea stretching endlessly below. For the first time since the fall, she didn't feel hunted. She felt home. The sun climbed higher, turning the ocean from steel to gold. The freighter drifted steady now, its chaos subdued, its secrets exposed. SEALs moved methodically across the deck, securing crates, tagging contraband, logging every stolen round and drive. No cheers, no victory shouts, just quiet precision, the kind born from purpose, not ego. The hum of the engines returned like a heartbeat finding rhythm again. Lara stood at the bow, hair whipping in the wind, eyes locked on the horizon. Salt crusted her lips, the faint sting of old wounds beneath the new light. Below her, the water rolled calm and endless, the same ocean that had swallowed her whole days ago. It hadn't taken her. It had remade her. The narrator's voice came soft, almost reverent. They threw her into the ocean thinking it would erase her. But the ocean keeps memories, and Navy SEALs own the water. For a long moment, nothing moved but the waves. Then a chopper shadow stretched across the deck, Extraction inbound. Lara turned once, watching her team haul the last crate into position. One of them looked up and gave a silent nod. She returned it. If stories like this remind you what resilience truly looks like, the voice continued, share it. Someone out there needs to remember that tides don't forget, and neither should we. The sea shimmered in reply, endless, eternal, alive. The hum of the rotor blades faded into the distance, leaving only the sea and the echo of what had just happened. The narrator's voice cut through the silence, calm but deliberate. Could you survive what she did, alone, underwater, hunted? It wasn't just a question, it was a mirror. Every viewer felt it, the pulse of uncertainty, the quiet test of courage. Tell me below, the voice continued. I read every single story. There was no sales pitch, no noise, only invitation. To belong, to remember, to carry the mission forward. If this story made you feel what strength really means, hit the like, share it with someone who'd understand, and subscribe. Not for the algorithm, but for the next mission. The screen dimmed. The ocean remained. It's already waiting, the voice whispered. See you on the next operation.